Hi friends, this video number 4 on the topic of metaplasia, and today I want to talk about guidelines that physicians are following when the results of endoscopy and biopsy are in. This will clarify for many people why my gastroenterologist does not want to do gastroscopy or endoscopy 3 years before, why he put it in 5 years, so he said no. So guidelines. Now, you need to understand that guidelines are living thing. This particular guidelines that I'm talking about, they've been created in 2022. Now it's 2025. They may change soon, or actually we don't know when the data will accumulate and the new guidelines will be issued and things will change. And if they will change, I will update you. So let's go and talk about guidelines. So you did endoscopy and the biopsy were taken and results are back. And they're positive for either Barrett's or H. pylori and metaplasia is there. When the next biopsy is going to be done? And the answer is in case of Barrett's. If Barrett's esophagus without dysplasia, it's recommended to perform biopsy every 3 to 5 years. Very clear. If Barrett's esophagus with low-grade dysplasia, by the way, this playlist is not about dysplasia. It's about metaplasia. But in video number 2, I talked about difference between low-grade dysplasia and high-grade dysplasia. Low-grade is kind of, if you will think about dysplasia, it's better than high grade. High grade is closer, one step closer to cancer, right? So as a result, when there is low grade dysplasia, it's recommended to do biopsy every 6 to 12 months. If there is a high grade dysplasia, it's recommended to perform biopsies every 3 months. Now we are moving to the stomach. So intestinal metaplasia in the stomach. On the left, you can see example. If H. pylori is positive, metaplasia complete and focal, kind of more benign, right? Then the guideline is said H. pylori must be eradicated. Not only eradicated, but it have to be confirmed that it's eradicated. Why? Because H. pylori is a risk factor for cancer. So as a result, that's the guideline. And then endoscopy and biopsy in 3 years. On the right, you can see H. pylori is negative. Metaplasia is complete and focal. Endoscopy and biopsy in 3 to 5 years or never, if no risk factors, and also if patient does not complain. So meaning that 3 years passed, person doesn't have gastritis, no pain, no complaints, and no risk factors. Then what's the indication to do? None. But if you will have a risk factors, then it could be done in 3 to, depends on the risk factor. Okay? And who is going to decide? You and gastroenterologist. 2 people will decide when to do in 3 years or in 5. In 3 to 5 years, if risk factors are positive. And by the way, here is the slide. Please stop here. And remind, this is the slide that comes from video number 2 and in every and each video. Contributing factors and risk factors to intestinal metaplasia, dysplasia, and then finally stomach cancer. So pause the video, write them down and see which risk factors you have or maybe none. So how severe irritants, how many irritants, how long the issue been, family predisposition, meaning that there is a stomach cancer in the family or there is a Lynch syndrome, acid reflux, bile reflux. H. pylori is definitely here because it's contribute to cancer formation, smoking, alcohol, environmental factors, autoimmune gastritis, IBS, IBD, and even constipation. Now, next example. H. pylori is negative, but metaplasia is incomplete, extensive. So you can see metaplasia is worse, right? You are one more step closer to cancer formation. Then maybe dysplasia is present or not, but the risk factors are negative. Endoscopy and biopsy done in 3 years. Second possibility, H. pylori negative, metaplasia is incomplete, extensive dysplasia is present, but the risk factors are there. Endoscopy and biopsy in 3 years or earlier. Who is going to decide? You and gastroenterologist will decide, do we need to do that earlier? Okay? Oh, by the way, this is my contact information. So, I hope it is clear. By the way, all my videos are made on rely on the guidelines from National Institute of Health. National Institute of Health is an organization that receives grants from private and the government. And unfortunately, at this time, our government is not completely there. And grants research are not going into cancer. So we don't know how soon these guidelines will be changed. But, we don't know that. We don't know. What can we do? All right. So what I want to stress is, if you have something like H. pylori or metaplasia and dysplasia, do not assume that it's up to your gastroenterologist just to make up the mind. It's all strictly controlled, okay? And it will be done in 3 years, in 5 years, or never. The guidelines are there to tell gastroenterologists when to do that. And by the way, articles that I used from National Institute of Health, they are in the description under the video. Okay, subscribe, bye-bye for now.